When the Season 6 finale of My Little Pony arrives, everything will change. Kawaii Critic here. Oh no, I got myself into quite a mess of things. It appears that my time is running out. I just had to get a certain insurance to help me stay away from a certain Cartoonz. Well, I guess I was gonna pay the price eventually. Looks like I'll have to deal with that when the Season 6 finale comes about. But I don't want to be all too sad, so I'm gonna go ahead and review the newest episode from the returning hiatus of My Little Pony. See you guys in a bit. Hey guys, Kawaii Critic here to review My Little Pony Season 6, Episode 13, Stranger Than Fanfiction. And apologies for the little thing before. I can't say I'm ever gonna resolve it, but things aren't looking good. But hey, a new episode came out, so I'm excited. And this episode definitely seems to be connected or share relevance to any sort of convention. And in this episode, we focus on Daring Do. And of course, who better to go and fan over Daring Do than Rainbow Dash, who encounters a new pony played by Patton Oswald, who doesn't like the newer version of Daring Do's adventures. He believes that the newer stuff isn't good, and Rainbow Dash is super upset and wants to prove that all the things that are in the story are true to life, and in doing so, she ends up bumping into Daring Do, who is actually there and actually going through some sort of adventure or planning to do something, and thus Rainbow Dash gets swiped into the adventure as well, seeing the bad guys typically associated with the Daring Do adventure. And when she bumps back into the Patton Oswald pony, they end up sort of getting captured, and things from there escalate as, well, he doesn't really believe that this is a real thing that is happening. He thinks that this is all part of the show or some sort of vacation sort of deal, and as soon as the danger comes, he wants to complain about how dangerous it is, but it's still fake, and it only takes up until a certain point where he believes that, oh, this is real. Whoops. But he comes with his own set of skills that help both Rainbow Dash and Daring Do get out of the temple using puzzles, yeah, and stuff of that nature. Anyway, they barely escape, get the doohickey thingy key thing, and then fly or get out of there. And then they say at the end that they both like different versions of the Daring Do adventures, but they can still be friends. So, what's the message here? Well, I think this is actually something that's kind of odd, but hey, it's a returning episode, and it's sort of fan fiction, so, it's gonna go to those places. But I do think there's some merit here as to what people watch on television in general. And I'm, of course, talking about when something of the like of a reboot happens. That's what I immediately connected this episode to, is, fans of the original said something, and then there are fans of the reboot said something, and there's usually these huge debates over how the reboot's not as good and blah blah blah. and people get all ragey and all angry. So, here's my perspective. A reboot doesn't have to be something that's necessarily bad, and quite frankly, yeah, not all reboots are bad, but I mean, it's better to judge them based off of their own merits rather than putting on those nostalgia glasses and saying, oh, but the original one was better just because it was the original. That's not a good enough reason. And oftentimes it feels like that is the argument. But there are reboots that just don't hold up characters quite as well as the original, and that is sort of where I can see where it comes from, this sort of disconnect. So I'm glad to see that these two were able to be friends even after this whole debacle, because from what I can see, at least on the internet, that behavior isn't very common, at least not something I've ever seen too often of. And that's people giving the new thing a chance and saying, yeah, that wasn't that bad. It had pretty good characters. You know, it was the characters from before, and they're going on new adventures. And you know what? I usually don't talk about other shows while relaying my reviews upon MLP, but in this case I will do so just to make a point. For example, there's a movie called Digimon Tri, which is sort of like a continuation, but it's also sort of a mini reboot, I guess. It's complicated. Anyways, upon viewing it, I found myself enjoying this movie better than the original. I liked what they did with the characters, really pushing the boundaries of what it means for these things to happen in the movie. And those things weren't ever really explored before, so yeah, it was something new, it was something different, and sure, one or two things in that were kind of like, oh no, they didn't do that, did they? But overall, I would say that the experience was pretty positive. And, you know, just because something is a reboot, that doesn't mean it's immune to criticism. On the contrary, we should point out things that are flaws so that things can potentially get better. But it has to come from a place that makes sense. Like, if a character isn't really that particularly good, we should point that out instead of just saying, oh, it's bad because it's a reboot. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it comes from a place that it's just, you just see the original and you don't want to see any other interpretation of said thing. So, with this episode in mind, I would urge anyone who watches this review, if you see something that's a reboot, and you happen to have liked the original, why not give it a chance? You never know if you're gonna like it until you actually watch it, and you know, for the sake of it, give it a few episodes. Like I said, you'll never know until you actually sit down and watch it. And if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. Just be ready to say, I don't like it because of an actually good reason, because others were gonna say, well, it's not that bad. So, just be prepared for that. Anyways, I think that covers about everything on the messages of this episode. We had plenty of actual, like, stuff that you would probably see in a convention. I mean, at least of My Little Pony convention or BronyCon, I wouldn't know. I've personally have never gone, and I would love to. And I'm pretty sure that this episode is only going to make me want to go next year, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But I really, really would want to. Anyways, being terrified of going to a place that I've never been before and putting up expenses that I probably don't even have, it's a fun episode nonetheless. So I give it up for everyone in this episode. It's an odd returning episode, to say the very least, but it's still fun, and, it gets us back into the swing of things at the very least. And with that being said, I do believe that covers everything in this episode. So, I'm Kawaii Critic, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!